To the to the Batmobile. Let's go.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Captain America said, you gotta be like me, or you're gonna wind up dead out at the end of your road. Flat road, down and inside. You sleepyhead, won't you go to bed? Let me run your line. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive, then well, will you be there holding my hand? Savior of the universe. Everybody come on.
Hey guys, it's Flamehawk, once again holding down the fort East meets West, and I just got back from the theaters, and guess what? The news is out, and Batman v Superman is not that great, unfortunately. I mean, we named our entire conglomerate of newscasting Nerd v Otaku namesaked for this exact movie, and while it is not good, it has some moments in it that make it worth watching. One of the most applauded moments at the movie theater was when Wonder Woman saved Batman's hide. Yes, that is right. Yes, that is right. Wonder Woman was the one sake that was saving this movie, and she was not used nearly enough. One other thing, I believe, I will do a quick breakdown of the movie, but not spoiling any of the information about it that would make it worth watching. Alright, now let's do a quick review, just to get the main information out of the way without giving too much spoilers to the rest of you, because that is what Zack Snyder requested from all the fans and critics. Although him releasing Doomsday kind of ruined it for himself. Now, the story, where do I begin with the story? It's not great. It's not great. There's times where it draws on, and some of the casting choices like Jesse Eisenberg aren't exactly correct. Now, I like Jesse Eisenberg, but what they're trying to do with the unhinged billionaire sometimes came across great, and sometimes it was terrible. I saw him as a mix between the Joker and the Riddler more than Lex Luthor. Like I said, there are some times where he's pretty good, and then there's some times that he's just not great at all, and he's pretty damn terrible. It's like 40-60 with his performance. There's times that just you cringe at the screen at what Jesse Eisenberg is doing at the character as Lex Luthor. And now, the thing I really am disappointed about is the screen time for the Justice League characters that will be soon making their way to the big screen more prevalently. Now, who I mean by this is Cyborg, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and The Flash. Yes, I know Wonder Woman was in the film, but she was not used nearly enough. She was one of the best characters in the entire film, and she was one of the main characters in the film, and she was not used nearly enough, and she was one of the most alluring characters, and the thing that made most of the fans most interested in, and there was a breakout of applaud when she entered the screen. Now, when she gets her own movie, we'll be getting to see a lot more of her, and maybe a backstory on why she abandoned humanity 100 years ago. But she definitely makes her presence well known in her short time in the film. I'm kind of disappointed in this movie just because it's one of the most iconic comic book characters versus another one. Bat of Gotham versus Son of Krypton. I mean, those are the people who started the comic trend. And if you ask anyone who their main character in the comics are, you're definitely going to be getting one of those two characters 7 out of 10. Especially if they're DC junkie. And Ben Affleck, he's pretty decent. He's grueling, he's intense, and you can see he's being burnt out. Just because he sees the world as a dark place, and when one criminal goes away, another comes up. So it's an endless cycle, and he's starting to get tired of everything that is being thrown at him. Now, there's also a Easter egg in the background of Robin's costume. So he's had emotional tears before. I'm not sure what Robin it is, but it just might be the Red Hood. Yes, that's right, Jason Todd. Now, I'm not sure if that's correct, but we might be seeing Jason Todd as one of the main villains in the Batman solo film. That would definitely be interesting. And the opening scene, it was pretty good. No complaints. It was taking place right where the battle of Zod versus Kal-El was going on, and leaving in the wake was the destruction of Gotham, and mainly Bruce Wayne's empire falling down to the ground, literally on his feet, and having him, not much he can do about it, although you could see the heartbreak it is causing him not to be able to do anything about it. Now, you might be wondering how Alfred was in this movie, and I have to assure you that Jeremy Irons did one hell of a job on bringing that character again to the main screen and proving he can live up to the shadow that Michael Caine left in the Dark Knight trilogy. You see Alfred working on all the machines that Batman is rolling out, and he is more of the sidekick role to Batman than a butler. So that's very interesting, seeing him take a more technical and hands-on approach rather than just mentoring from the side. So you can look sure to see more of that in the upcoming Batman solo film. In the action scenes, that is where the movie is at its best. While the story might not be that great, the action scenes are definitely taking a main role and providing what the fans are wanting. While people and critics are complaining about the story mostly, fans applaud for the action, which turns out to be great, especially when it's Batman v Superman, or Doomsday versus the trio Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. The one thing I do wonder about this movie is the reasoning why Batman stops attacking Superman. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the reasoning in my head just doesn't make sense. You have to have more of a reason and have more of a forefront to calm the angry Batman who is about to kill Superman by a method that is definitely not friendly and definitely hostile. Like I said, the tone is dark, so the PG-13 warning is definitely worth it, and there are some scenes that are brutal. Well, what should I label this film, and how should I rate this? It had some good parts. It had some terrible parts. The terrible parts kind of outweighed the good parts, but the good parts were great. So that makes it tough. I'll give it a 5 because some fans applauded it and some fans said it was terrible. So let's cut the middle ground and give it a 5. Now, 5 isn't terrible in movie standards. And now I'm going to be breaking down how it relates to the upcoming films and how it set a precedent for all the DC movies in creating a cinematic universe, as well as why they decided to do this film right now. One thing I believe that would have made this movie better is if Batman, the one with Ben Affleck, established himself in the movie, in the DCU, earlier, which would prevent all the unnecessary breaking down of his character into this one movie while it was trying to focus on an entirely different matter. While it did handle it decently, not great mind you, but it did handle it decently, and there were a few different things that I would change, but nothing that is that pressing. But making Batman a solo movie before Batman v Superman just makes sense to me. I'm not sure if it makes sense to you guys, but that would save so much time in the unnecessary breakdown of the establishment while they're trying to make a Batman v Superman movie, similar how Captain America and Iron Man both have had movies before their respective class, which is coming out May, which is going to be them pitting them against each other on different philosophies, sort of like what happened here in Batman v Superman. Now, speaking of Civil War, that is one of the reasons why DC made this bold move to establish themselves on the movie front, because before this movie, they were totally getting their blanks handed to them by Marvel. Well, I mean, they have been making movies for a while now, DC. They have not strung together a branch of collective things that would make it a universe. They've done very well on the TV front, but now they are trying to establish themselves on the movie front, and it is tough because they are behind the eight ball, and this is why they were doing it. They were trying to pit their two best characters, similar to how Marvel is pitting their two best characters against each other. This is basically DC playing the catch-up game to Marvel, while DC has more important things to worry about, like establishing a universe, which Marvel has done very well at, and has been doing it since the '08 release of Iron Man. I know the Cavill Man of Steel came out a few years ago, but after that, it's kind of been cold turkey, and that movie's been kind of hanging in the wind with not much else surrounding it. The one thing I do agree with is them adding supporting characters in this film, Batman v Superman. However, I don't believe they did this nearly enough. Yes, we did see Cyborg, yes, we did see Flash, we did see Aquaman, and we did see Wonder Woman more than the others, because the others were basically just a short video showing who they are in their powers or their creation. They deserved more of a limelight in this movie, which I believe would have done better if they could have got the establishing role before they tried to make this grandeur plan and roll out heavy-hitting dice. Now, before I switch over to the Easter eggs, I'd like to mention there is no end credit scene, and do not wait till the end unless you want to be seeing everyone's name in the production of the film. Yes, we do admire their work on the film, but there is no scene at the end, and do not sit through it because there is nothing there. So I'm glad I saved you a few minutes of your life. You're welcome. Now, like I previously mentioned, the Easter eggs, including the Robin one I've just mentioned, will begin right now. Now, with the Easter eggs, there are some decent-sized ones to be taking note of. We have an appearance of Darkseid. In the dream sequence, or alternate reality sequence from Batman himself, we see the steps of Darkseid taking form in the DCEU. That is, along with his minions, who are attacking the Dark Knight, and that is the people who are under the control of Darkseid. And we've seen some engravings of the logo of Darkseid on the desert in the strange symbols. So it is some interesting things to be taking note of, how DC is taking a similar step with establishing Darkseid as Marvel did with Thanos. And like I previously mentioned, Robin is dead. Or is he? The costume of the unlabeled Robin says, "The joke's on you, Batman," And I'm wondering if that's the Joker, which I am pretty sure it is. That shows he either killed one of his Robins, or, like I've previously mentioned, it is Jason Todd taking his role as the Red Hood, which is definitely an interesting point of view on it. And since he's an older, more established Batman, it is time to see one of his apprentices take over, but not for the good side. And now small things like Perry White referring to Clark more than once in the film as Smallville, the TV series, which was running successfully for a while, and one oddball throwout that might be true or might not be true. There are a few engravings and graffiti on the pillars behind Batman in one scene. One of the questions says, "Who watches the Watchmen?" Now, who does this sound like to you? I'm thinking the Riddler, and I'm not alone on this. There are so many other people who share my point of view, saying that that is the Riddler taking place. So, can we see the Red Hood? Can we see the Joker in this film, in the upcoming DCEU, other than Suicide Squad? I believe so. And also, the Riddler coming up. So, there are a few different things to be excited about, from Aquaman and Cyborg entering to new villains entering the fray. Now, one villain I really want to find to be in the DCEU, but he's not going to be, unfortunately, is Man-Bat. Because who is better than Man-Bat for doing a obscure take on Batman? Well, that's been my point of view on the recently released movie Batman v Superman. Now, I hope you enjoyed that, and we have a few other news before we head out. Now, why is this film so great at establishing the DCEU, you might ask? You might be wondering why I would even think that after a movie that was tanking this terrible. However, I do have my reasons, and this is, like I said before, a game of catch-up. Because DC is so far behind Marvel in the cinematic world, you have to make a big splash and introduce all your characters in a short manner to catch up in a reasonable time. Now, they did that. Not proficiently as I might hope, but they did introduce Cyborg, they did introduce Wonder Woman, they did introduce Batman, they did introduce Aquaman, and they did introduce The Flash. So you have 5 main characters that they introduced just in this film alone. Now, that's a tricky task to handle, and I don't think anyone could really handle it that great, although DC didn't do a terrible job at doing it. Not as much screen time to the rest of the Justice League members as one would hope, but there is an introduction of those characters in the film, which helps them save time for the future, and it establishes the universe as it is already going on, instead of having a bunch of introduction movies, which, although they might do for the certain characters that they didn't introduce that well in the Justice League, like Cyborg or Aquaman, they definitely have a head start in having them on screen time and telling the fans that they are on their way. This movie also set a precedent of how dark the series is going to be, and how the tone of the DCEU will be affected going forward. However, movies tend to bunk the trend, and you can have certain movies that are feeling lighthearted, although I see DC going the more gritty route and trying to get the more adult crowd, while Marvel is trying to play a game of PG-13, unfortunately. Although Zack Snyder is saying that The Flash will lighten up the movie The Justice League and give a bit of comic relief, because he's more optimistic than Batman or Superman, who are having a crisis of coincidence which would draw them together. Now, Zack Snyder also said, "I'm getting ready to start the Justice League on 11th of April. So in like 2 weeks we are shooting. And it's an intense, awesome, gigantic undertaking because Bruce because Bruce is having to go out and sort of Seven Samurai the Justice League together, which is fun. It's slightly monumental, and at the same time, they're starting to grapple this coming threat. What coming threat, you might ask? Well, look back in the video and take a look for yourself, because Darkseid is on his way, as seen in the Batman nightmare scenes. Now, Gal Gadot says the movie Wonder Woman will see a different character slightly in their mannerisms. The Wonder Woman you're going to see in Batman v Superman is a very different Wonder Woman that you will see in the standalone movie. The Wonder Woman that you see in Batman v Superman is a woman who has been around. She's very experienced. She understands a lot about man, whereas in the standalone movie, we are telling the grown-up story. Diana becoming Wonder Woman, and this was a story that was never told before. When she starts the journey, she's very pure. She's more naive. She's more young, idealistic, who does not really understand the complexities of life and the complexities of men. So it looks like we're going to be going back 100 years ago and seeing how she turned her back on humanity. So we have a little bit about that on the information on how the DCEU will be marching forward and how the tone and the characters will be like in the near future. So that's a very interesting take on how the DCEU will be marching forward and paving a way for the DC universe to be explored and built upon from this movie, Batman v Superman. Well, a new Civil War trailer was released recently, and it shows basically the same scenes we've seen from the previous trailers, except for one interesting scene that details the friendship between Hawkeye and Black Widow. While they are fighting, and they are ruthlessly fighting a little bit, they wonder if they are still friends. Although Hawkeye's opinion definitely said, yes, we are, which makes it a interesting friend versus friend fight. Although we did start to see that with the last trailer, and Iron Man questioning Captain America, saying, I used to be your friend as well. So this shows the intensity of the characters and how each team is dealing with the fact that they are going to have to be fighting their friends in the upcoming battle due to different philosophies on whether they should be registering and holding back from helping, or using the Captain America's approach and doing whatever they can, although the outcomes might not be that great, as seen in Sokovia. But that is definitely interesting, and this film looks to be better than Batman v Superman. Now, I don't want anyone to be mad at me on the Marvels, or on the DC side, so it's still too early to tell, but from what I'm seeing, it looks like a better movie all around. Not only is Ben Affleck acting in the standalone Batman film, it looks like he might also be writing it. Ben Affleck told DC Access he is indeed working with Geoff Johns on something. Geoff Johns is a brilliant guy. I consider him to be the most valued resource on all things comic book, and every time I like something in the comic, I always mention it. He's like, oh yeah, I wrote that. Now, I just think he's bullshitting me. He's saying he wrote everything. You know, he and I are working together on something, and I really am excited about it, and I love him. He's the best. Now, who's Geoff Johns, you might ask? Well, Geoff Johns is a comic book writer and writes for television and film on the DC side. So what could we see working from him? I definitely think we could be seeing something similar to him working on the new movie for Batman, which is coming out in a few years. He's also the chief creative officer, and he's had his hand on modifying the few different characters over the years on their portrayal of on-screen television / movies. It's interesting to see how he takes the work from the comics pages to the big screen, and he recently said that the Aquaman has so much depth to him, and I can't wait for the fans to see him in Batman v Superman, and also the DCEU. Now, that's an interesting thing because we only saw a little bit of Aquaman throughout the film, like I previously mentioned, and while it was great and it looked pretty damn good, it just looked like there could have been more. But in the solo movie, it looks so great. But in the solo movie, it is looking like Jason Momoa will be able to make the character his own starting in the 2018 solo film. Well, an interesting take on the newest Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Paul McCartney will be joining the action, although it has not been mentioned what role he will be playing. Now, you might remember that Keith Richards, the guitarist for the Rolling Stones, played Jack Sparrow's father, so who could Paul McCartney playing? That's an interesting take, and there's not enough information to be even speculating on this, but just to let you know, he is patrolling the seas on a yellow submarine. Now I'm going to be switching over to anime side and manga side to help ease the relief of the disappearance of my co-host, the Gentleman Snark. Now, some interesting news about Toonami. They will co-produce 2 new seasons of Fooly Cooly. That is right, that will be a follow-up to the 2000 and 2001 OVA, which is definitely interesting, and the show is scheduled for the late 2017 and early 18, and this will be a 12-episode sequel to the original, and it will be split up into 2 seasons. And the Adult Swim network described the new story as, in the new season of Fooly Cooly, many years have passed since Naota and Haruko shared their adventure together. Meanwhile, the war between the two entities known as Medical Mechanica and Fraternity rages across the galaxy. Enter Hidomi, a young teenage girl who believes there's nothing amazing to expect from her average life, until one day when a new teacher named Haruko arrives at her school. Soon enough, Mechanica is attacking her town, and Hidomi discovers a secret within her that could save everyone, a secret that only Haruko can unlock. But why did Haruko return to Earth? What happened to her Rickenbacker 4001? She left with Naota, and where did the human-type robot Kantai go? Now, this definitely looks interesting, and it looks like the production IG said they will be acquiring the rights to the Fooly Cooly anime, and said it would be used for a new anime remake. Now, recently, Pokemon Go has released a few new tidbits about the upcoming app that so many fans are exciting to go see it. Get it? Pokemon Go? Now, the things they released are players will be able to find real-world locations using location technology, and Pokemon are only available in certain areas, like water types will only be found in lakes or oceans, which makes sense. And the smartphone can be set to vibrate when a Pokemon is nearby. Players can also find Pokestops and Pokegems at interesting places such as public art installations, historical markers, and monuments. So we definitely will see Pokemon gyms, which is interesting and might be a fun way to explore the city or town you are living in. At the Pokemon stops, players can acquire Pokeballs and other items, probably such as health potions and other, maybe burn heal, but you never know. And after the player explores enough, the Pokemon stops will offer Pokemon eggs that will be able to be hatched when the player takes a certain number of steps. So that is definitely interesting, kind of like a game corner kind of thing, getting new Pokemon and walking around to unhatch the eggs, certainly like the game. Now, I believe this will be level 1 instead of level 5 because they recently switched over to those different game mechanics. Now, Pokemon gyms will be empty until the player assigns Pokemon to them. Each player can only assign one Pokemon to the gym, and so must work with a team to defend the gym. At a certain point in the game, players will be asked to join one of 3 teams. Players can gain levels as a trainer to catch more powerful and receive better items, and catching one kind of Pokemon will allow the Pokemon to evolve. So there definitely is a level up mechanic in the game, which is definitely something to look forward to and give you something to strive for. And now Pokemon Go will be releasing in 2016 at an undetermined time for the Android and iPhone phones. Testing is beginning this month in Japan, although there's no decision of when there's going to be a marker for when we can test it here in the States. Now, a new trailer for One Piece Burning Blood was recently released, and it shows off different game mechanics of the upcoming game and displays what the fans will be able to do with the game on PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, PC, and Xbox One. Sorry, Nintendo, you have to bump up your processing. Now, this video shows different modes, including the Marineford arc, the War of the Beast, Wanted Versus mode, which is a free battle, and training mode and online mode. An earlier commercial was released showing the game in a real-life Tokyo streets, and Luffy just absolutely destroying. Who will we see in this game? It was previously confirmed that characters like Luffy, Doflamingo, Fujitora, Law, Bartolomeo, Brook, Chopper, my favorite X-Drake, Enel, Crocodile, Ace, Sabo, Kuzan, Smoker, Captain Kidd, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Frankie, Boa Hancock, Nico Robin, Nami, Perona, just for the fan service, which we definitely are on full display at the newest promo for the game. Akaniu, Kizaru, Ekoji, Whitebeard, Marco, Joes, Jinbei, Luffy, which is the 2 years ago version, and Sengoku. You definitely have a very interesting cast of characters there, showing off the main people in the series and having them pit one against each other, as well as being placed in important situations in the series, like the Marineford arc, which is definitely a very interesting and pits you right into the battle as seen in the newest promo. Now, some very interesting information about the pre-order situation here in America is what fans will be getting, which is a exclusive metal case and the codes for Afro Luffy, Kung Fu Luffy, and Luffy Gear 4. Yes, that is right, Gear 4 is in this game. Yes, it is, and boy, does it look good. And I will definitely be enjoying playing that, and look forward to us putting gameplay footage on there for all of you to see on our YouTube page, East Meets West, while also probably doing a few breakdowns of the game here on WXCI 91.7 FM. Now, the game is scheduled to release in April, and it is definitely looking to be a decent game. Now, director Seo Yamato, who is known for Lupin III, The Woman Called Fukijio Mine, and also Michigo Hatsun, which recently was airing on Toonami. I hold my reserves to say anything about that aforementioned series, but they are out with a new anime releasing soon, which is titled Yuri on Ice. This anime is an authentic figure skating series, and that's really all we have to go on right now. But it does sound interesting, although the series can go really, really good or really, really bad, depending on what Yuri means. Now, I'm not going to say that definition in English on air. I'm just hoping this is a character's name, opposed to the Japanese meaning, which can go really, really bad. And something I probably should not be able to say in the air. Although, the website that lists this anime says the manga creator will be Mitsuru Kubo, known for Motekai and 337 Byoshi, and the anime studio will be Mappo, which is known for Garo, Rage of Bahamut, Genesis, and Yusio and Tora. So we'll definitely be seeing how this series goes along, and it could be skating very well, or it could be finding rough ice. we'll see going on in the future. Now, for all you fairy tale fans, there is a new TV anime series in the works, and it was released on the weekly Shonen magazine a few days ago, saying the current anime season will air its last episode on March 26th, so that's just coming around right now. This anime season had aired the Fairy Tail Zero prequel, which was from the manga, on January 9th to March 11th. There's no word on what will be covered in this series. However, a second anime film has been greenlit and is in the works after the first one, which was released in August 2012. It's definitely interesting to see what route this will go, because the manga has been going on for a while, and this season looks like a new start, because the last fairy tale season, / the current one, is not that great and tends to drag on. But this is a new team, and who knows if this will be given a second chance to be given Fairy Tail the chance and the redemption it deserves. Now that's all I have here at East Meets West. Thank you for listening, and remember, go to our YouTube page, East Meets West, go to our website, Nerd View Otaku, go to our Twitter page, @MeetsWest, and go to our Tumblr page, East Meets West World 917. And also, catch us every week on Friday, 4 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. And until next time, look on our Twitter page for more information that we'll be covering in the upcoming weeks. Now see you next week, and stay classy. Hey, this is Flamehawk. I hope you enjoyed our weekly East Meets West podcast.
Be sure to catch us every week on Fridays at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I run the American side of things, covering Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and much, much more.
And as always, I run the otaku and Japanese side of things, from Shonen Jump into other interesting anime news. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your contribution is always appreciated.
And remember, folks, stay classy.
See ya!